By 1947, the Cold War is certainly underway. So now you need a new foreign policy for the United States to address this new situation. We get that policy in 1947 from a State Department policy planner known as George Keenan. Keenan was the primary architect of a policy called Containment. It was our Cold War foreign policy in Europe for the next 45 years. What it means is right there in the word. You don't attack communism outright. You contain it. You don't let it spread. The assumption is that communism, which was based on flawed logic, would basically, if you stop its spread, would basically collapse over its own weight. It would eventually just fall apart and destroy itself. That's the general idea, and that's what we adopted. And just for fun, for those of you that have taken History 1301, U.S. History 1, what was Abraham Lincoln's policy when it came to slavery, particularly in his early years? That's right, containment. Now, if you jump ahead, we will adopt containment, but there are people who are going to say that we should not contain communism, that we should attack and use our nuclear advantage. To make a long story short, we obviously do not use the atomic button. Instead, we rely on containment, and what happens to the communist Soviet Union 45 years later? It falls apart, just as Keenan said. Now, do a lot of people in Eastern Europe wind up living under a communistic rule, and there was a hard and sometimes a horrific life? Yes, but can you balance that with basically incinerating them? There are those that will not allow their enemies to live. Now, I want to turn to some specific ways in how we dealt with containment and how it was implemented. For example, in 1947, Greece and Turkey are going to be the first places where containment is going to be implemented. Greece at this time had an internal communist rebellion. Guess who was helping the communists? That's right, the Soviet Union. And of course, we didn't want to see Greece go communist. Turkey was also under pressure from the Soviet Union, particularly relinquished control of the outlet to the Black Sea into the Mediterranean, known as the Bosphorus Straits. They wanted a warm water access year-round. The British had been helping both the Greeks and the Turks to stand off the Soviet Union's threat and its pressure. And when the British ran out of money, it turned to the United States and cherished Truman to help. Truman in 1947 is going to go before Congress and ask for $400 million to aid the governments of Greece and Turkey in standing up against Soviet communistic pressure. In asking for this military aid in peacetime, Truman says, and I quote, "I believe that it must be the policy of the United States to support free peoples who are resisting attempted subjugation by armed minorities or by outside pressures. I believe that we must assist free peoples to work out their own destinies in their own way." This is what's known as the Truman Doctrine. And by the way, when we say free countries, we mean not communist. Congress agreed and put the money up, and the United States would aid Greece and Turkey, and it was successful. Neither country went communist. So the first attempt at containment was a major success.